Hello, and today I want to talk about managing cash flow over the holidays. And it doesn't really matter when you have your holidays, whether it's over the summer or whether you take your holidays at other times through the year. The challenge is always how you manage the cash flow. How do you make sure you've got enough money for the holidays? How do you make sure you have enough money to pay your personal bills? You know, the mortgage, the rent, the rates, the electricity, all the things that still get paid or still get charged, even if you're not at home. Do you have enough money? How do you cash flow the actual holiday costs, assuming you're going away as opposed to staying at home? And that can be whether you're on a camping trip, whether you're flying interstate, going overseas, it doesn't really matter. There's always some extra costs on holidays, whether you've got children or not too. I know for me, I don't have children, but it doesn't matter. The holidays cost more. Just the way it is. But you've still got to pay the rent, the mortgage, the electricity bill, the council rates, the water rates, insurances, medical benefits, fund stuff. All those things still get paid. Your phone bills, like everything. It just still happens. So you've got this base level of cost, irrespective of whether you're on holidays or not. And how do you make that work? How do you make sure that you've got enough cash flow coming out of your business to fund you? And this is particularly the case for consultants and businesses that sell time for money. And whether you are actively keeping a time record of selling time for money, or whether it is simply that it's a service business where you do the job, where you've got a project to do, where it's not manual labor in the physical sense of it, but it's hours of work that you're selling rather than a physical product. Because the problem is when you're not doing the hours of work, there's no money. You're not making any money. There's no income coming in. And if you shut the business down for a couple of weeks, particularly over the Christmas New Year period, that can cause a serious problem with your cash flow. Now, it may not cause a problem with the cash flow in the short term, but it'll kick in about probably February, maybe March. Suddenly you'll be a bit short. And add to that the fact you've then spent money when you're away, and that's more money to pay out, and it all kind of crashes in at the same time. So how do you manage it? What are the tricks and tips for doing it? Well, to be honest, the trick is that you should be working on planning this many, many months in advance. So many, many months in advance, you need to be factoring in budgeting, what your income's going to be for the year, what your expenses are for the 12 months, and then looking at what the income is over the weeks of the year that you're working. And if you've got a team, factoring into account when they may take holidays. And look, it doesn't have to be perfect. And you may simply say, well, to make it easy, I've got 12 team members, so there's going to be someone on holidays every month of the year. So let's work on the basis on one person down on the team throughout the year. Obviously, if you've got 6 staff, it's every 2 months you're one person down. So it doesn't matter if everybody's taking the leave at the same time, you're factoring that in as your total revenue line as the way it is. And you may say, look, we are only working 50 weeks of the year, we are shutting for 2, and then there's still those extra 2 weeks, or actually probably more 3, because of public holidays over the Christmas New Year period. But there's another 3 weeks of leave that I have to account for every member of staff. And how does that factor in to the revenue line? So the key is to work out how you can make that work so you've got enough money coming in over the previous months so that money is still flowing in even when you're not there, even when you're not working. And that can be a challenge when you're getting close to that time period if you haven't got that buffer of money that you've built up to allow for and to pay for those bills. And look, I'm talking it a bit from a business perspective, but the same really, you apply the same, really re-engineer it from personal bills. So the engineering really is looking at your personal home budget, allowing for those costs of the holidays. How do you make sure that you're saving enough money to have the money to enjoy the holiday and not be there fretting and worrying about how on earth you're going to pay for it? It's particularly when you've got kids and you promise to, I don't know, take them to Disneyland, or you've promised to take them up the theme parks. That's the word. That's what I was thinking of before, the theme parks. Whatever that is, you need to be thinking about that pretty much a long way in advance if you can, so that it's not the end of the world when you get there and you know that you've got money in the bank. Because whilst you can put it on a credit card, just means you're behind all the time. It means you're paying interest on the credit card, and that's not a cheap rate of interest. Because whilst the interest rates by the Reserve Bank have fallen, interest rates around the world are low, our credit card companies have not changed their interest rates. It's still there. One of my clients rang his credit company just the other day, and it was 20% for a cash advance on his credit card. And that's from day one of the cash advance, not to the end of the month or, when you haven't paid the bill. Even the interest rate, I think, on average, probably, and I haven't looked at it recently, but not that long ago, was still up around 16% on purchases if you don't pay the bill in full on time. So it's big dollar. It's a big amount. That's wasted money. You're paying some big corporate that doesn't need it. So the key is to be planning for it, to be putting money aside, to have a buffer, to plan out the year. And even if you don't have a year and you've got only a few months, to look at that and work out how can you make that work in the next few months before the holiday. So you've got the money before the holiday. Better to have no debt, because when times get tough, that's fine. You're only paying off. I'm not saying no debt with a mortgage. Yes, ideally no mortgage too. But, I'm talking about your credit card debts and those types of things. Better not to have them. Really? Then you can enjoy a holiday as much as your family does. Because chances are you haven't told the family that you're putting it on credit and you're paying it off over the next 6 months. No, they just think we're going on a holiday. So go away, have a good holiday, enjoy your holiday, but at the same time make sure you've got the money to pay for it. And the tip side, if you don't have the money to pay for it, maybe you need to downgrade the holiday and do something else that doesn't cost quite as much.